You are so goddamn beautiful.
I'm sorry, I've just been really eager to tell you.
You have no idea how happy I am to be here with you.
Just to spend time with you?
It's like, yes, I'm finally doing something right with my life because, I mean, look.
It led me to be with an amazing girl like you.
You do this thing when you just smile. You smile, and I feel like I'm the luckiest man alive.
Like, Jesus Christ, I'm so in love with you, and I find it so hard to believe that I've met you.
I cherish every word you say, every laugh, every smile.
And I genuinely, honestly just believe that
You're just it.
I think you're the one.
You are the one.
I know that I can tell you anything, and you won't judge me for what I do.
I cherish every word you say.
I know
every
this
laugh, every
sounds
smile.
You are so goddamn beautiful.
You are so goddamn beautiful.
You are so goddamn beautiful.
You have no idea how happy I am to be here with you.
Yes!
I know that I can tell you
I'm finally
everything.
doing
You
something
won't
right
judge
with
what
my
I
life
do.
because
You're the one.
You're the one.
You are the one.
I'm here to talk to you today about the difference between being addicted to love and being in love. Most relationships start with a sense of excitement and a rush. You meet a person, they capture your imagination, and you can't sleep at night. Your palms get sweaty, you fantasize about what that relationship is going to be like in the future.
Fighter planes running around my head, running around my head. I gotta go, go, go. Sex, love, honey.
You think about how it'll be to walk with them, and in that moment, it's hard to imagine even living without them. That process of being excited and being captured or spellbound by someone new is a process we call limerence.
But I don't feel like I felt before. It's not happening now that you're leaving. I love you like never before. Oh, this is not happening now. Can be happening now.
Limerence is different than love. In limerence, the brain areas that are involved in reward and excitement are activated. Chemicals like dopamine and norepinephrine that increase arousal and that tell us that something really good is going to happen are activated in much the way they're activated by drugs. So, what about people who are addicted to love as opposed to falling in love?
But I don't feel like I felt before. It's not happening.
People who have trouble with relationships are often chasing the limerence. They don't have the capacity to create stable, long-term relationships. And so often, the way they replace that is with the thrill and the high of meeting someone new. This time it will be different.
When you feel like you're alone inside, and you beg but she won't take you there.
But what's really happening is that they're craving that excitement that comes with the first kiss, the excitement that comes with the first conversation, the obsessive preoccupation with what that person is doing and how they will get close to them. Most people who become addicted to love have had problems in their earlier relationships. They may have suffered maternal or parental abuse or neglect. They may have been victims of sexual abuse. They may have problems with mood that interfere with their being able to get close to people. But in the end, what happens is that they substitute the thrill of the relationship for the relationship itself. And as a result, they're constantly seeking that new excitement. With each new relationship or each new love affair comes this bolus of sexual energy, of hormones, of dopamine that stimulate the brain center much in the same way as cocaine or amphetamines do.
We all start to fade away. This isn't happening now.
That's why they call them crushes. If they were easy, they call them something else.
Limerence is a state of mind sometimes referred to as being in love, as distinct from loving someone, and sometimes called infatuation. Limerence is distinguished from love in that love, in most of its meanings, involves concern for the loved one's welfare and feelings with little or no expectation of gain in return. In contrast, limerence demands reciprocation. Either reciprocation occurs and limerence is replaced by other feelings, possibly lasting love. Evidence that the limerent object does not reciprocate finally overwhelms the limerent's passion, or the limerence is transferred to a new object. The primary characteristics of limerence can be summarized as intrusive, perhaps obsessive, thinking about the limerent object and acute longing for reciprocation. Clinically, this state is marked by a decrease of serotonin neurotransmitter, which leads to increase in emotional sensitivity and instability. People can sometimes become very irrational or almost insane. In particular, the desire for reciprocation can produce irrational beliefs. Limerents often feel real physiological effects, including a physical pain in the chest, heartache, when reciprocation seems unlikely, and euphoria when reciprocation seems evident. If the limerent object does not reciprocate and does not handle the situation with care, people in this state can suffer severe depression, sometimes committing suicide. Unrequited love is one of the major causes of suicide in the younger generation. An infatuated person has an idealized image of their target. The person fell in love with this image, which may have no relation to the real person whatsoever. The object of infatuation is likely to reject the advances of the afflicted person because they may consciously or unconsciously realize that the afflicted is in love with a fictional image, not them, and that they are not compatible. Alternatively, the afflicted may get to know the person well enough to realize that they are in love with a fiction and become disillusioned. A happy ending is also possible. If the daydream image actually resembles the real person closely enough, that might be referred to as love at first sight.
I mean, I always feel like a freak because I'm never able to move on like this, you know. People just have an affair or even entire relationships. They break up and they forget. They move on like they would have changed brand of cereals. I feel I was never able to forget anyone I've been with because each person had their own specific qualities. You can never replace anyone. What is lost is lost. Each relationship, when it ends, really damages me. I never fully recover. That's why I'm very careful with getting involved, because it hurts too much. Even getting laid, I actually don't do that, because I will miss of the person the most mundane things. Like I'm obsessed with little things. I think it's the same with people. I see in them little details so specific to each of them that move me and that I miss and will always miss. You can never replace anyone because everyone is made of such beautiful, specific details. I guess when you're young, you just believe there'll be many people with whom you connect with. Later in life, you realize it only happens a few times.
I and my colleagues Art Aaron and Lucy Brown and others have put 37 people who are madly in love into a functional MRI brain scanner. 17 who are happily in love, 15 who had just been dumped, and we're just starting our third experiment, studying people who report that they're still in love after 10 to 25 years of marriage. So this is the short story of that research. Romantic love is one of the most powerful sensations on earth. So several years ago, I decided to look into the brain and study this madness. We found activity in a tiny little factory near the base of the brain called the ventral tegmental area. We found activity in some cells called the A10 cells, cells that actually make dopamine, a natural stimulant, and spray it to many brain regions. Indeed, this part, the VTA, is part of the brain's reward system. It's way below your cognitive thinking process. It's below your emotions. It's part of what we call the reptilian core of the brain, associated with wanting, with motivation, with focus, and with craving. In fact, the same brain region where we found activity becomes active also when you feel the rush of cocaine. But romantic love is much more than a cocaine high. At least you come down from cocaine. Romantic love is an obsession. It possesses you. You lose your sense of self. You can't stop thinking about another human being. Somebody is camping in your head. As an 8th century Japanese poet said, "My longing had no time when it ceases." And the obsession can get worse when you've been rejected. So right now, Lucy Brown and I, the neuroscientist on our project, are looking at the data of the people who we put into the machine after they had just been dumped. We found activity in 3 brain regions. We found activity in exactly the same brain region associated with intense romantic love. What a bad deal. You know, when you've been dumped, the one thing you love to do is just forget about this human being and then go on with your life. But no, you just love them harder. Terence, the Roman poet, once said, he said, "The less my hope, the hotter my love." And indeed, we now know why. 2,000 years later, we can explain this in the brain. That brain system, the reward system for wanting, for motivation, for craving, for focus, becomes more active when you can't get what you want. We found activity in other brain regions also. In a brain region associated with calculating gains and losses. You know, you're lying there, you're looking at the picture, you're in this machine, you're calculating, you know, what went wrong, what have I lost? And indeed, it's this brain, part of the brain, the core of the nucleus accumbens actually, that's becoming active as you're measuring your gains and losses. It's also the brain region that becomes active when you're willing to take enormous risks for huge gains and huge losses. Last but not least, we found activity in the brain region associated with deep attachment to another individual. No wonder people suffer around the world, and we have so many crimes of passion. When you've been rejected in love, not only are you engulfed with feelings of romantic love, but you're feeling deep attachment to this individual. Moreover, this brain circuit for reward is working, and you're feeling intense energy, intense focus, intense motivation, and the willingness to risk it all to win life's greatest prize. Foremost, I've come to think that romantic love is a drive, a basic mating drive. Not the sex drive. The sex drive gets you out there looking for a whole range of partners. Romantic love enables you to focus your mating energy on just one at a time, conserve your mating energy, and start the mating process with a single individual. I've also come to believe that romantic love is an addiction, a perfectly wonderful addiction when it's going well, and a perfectly horrible addiction when it's going poorly. You focus on the person, you obsessively think about them, you crave them, you distort reality. Your willingness to take enormous risks to win this person. And it's got the main characteristics of addiction. Tolerance, you need to see him more and more and more. Withdrawals.
Yeah, just forget it. It's really easy. I'll just forget it too. Coast to coast.
People have often asked me whether what I know about love has spoiled it for me. I just simply say hardly. You can know every single ingredient in a piece of chocolate cake, and then when you sit down and eat that cake, you can still feel that joy. And certainly I make all the same mistakes everybody else does too. But it's really deepened my understanding and compassion, really, for all human life. George Bernard Shaw said it a little differently. He said, love consists of overestimating the differences between one woman and another. And indeed, that's what we do. And then you just focus on this person. You can list what you don't like about them, but then you sweep that aside and focus on what you do. As Chaucer said, love is blind. Not only does this person take on special meaning, you focus your attention on them, you aggrandize them, but you have intense energy. As one Polynesian said, he said, I felt like jumping in the sky. You're up all night, you're walking till dawn, you feel intense elation when things are going well, mood swings into horrible despair when things are going poorly, real dependence on this person. But the main characteristics of romantic love are craving, an intense craving to be with a particular person, not just sexually, but emotionally. You'd much rather, it would be nice to go to bed with them, but you want them to call you on the telephone, to invite you out, etc., to tell you that they love you.
Well, maybe I know somewhere deep in my soul that love never lasts. And we've got to find other ways to make it alone or keep a straight face. And I've always lived like this, keeping a comfortable distance. And up until 'cause none of it was ever worth the risk.
The other main characteristic is motivation. The motor in the brain begins to crank and you want this person. And last but not least, it is an obsession. When I put these people in the machine, before I put them in the MRI machine, I would ask them all kinds of questions. But my most important question was always the same. It was, what percentage of the day and night do you think about this person? And indeed, they would say, all day, all night. I can never stop thinking about him or her. And then the very last question I would ask them, I would always have to work myself up to this question because I'm not a psychologist. I don't work with people in any kind of traumatic situation. And my final question was always the same. I would say, would you die for him or her? And indeed, these people would say yes, as if I had asked them to pass the salt. I was just staggered by it. I began to realize that romantic love is not an emotion. In fact, I had always thought it was a series of emotions from very high to very low, but actually it's a drive. It comes from the motor of the mind.
You are the only exception. You
The wanting part of the mind, the craving part of the mind.
You are the only exception.
The motor of the brain. It's a drive. And in fact, I think it's more powerful than the sex drive. You know, if you ask somebody to go to bed with you and they say no thank you, you certainly don't kill yourself or slip into a clinical depression. But certainly around the world, people who are rejected in love will kill for it. People live for love, they kill for love, they die for love. We have songs, poems, novels, sculptures, paintings, myths, legends. In over 175 societies, people have left their evidence of this powerful brain system. I've come to think it's one of the most powerful brain systems on earth for both great joy and great sorrow. I don't think, honestly, we were an animal that was built to be happy. We were an animal that was built to reproduce. I think the happiness we find, we make. So one thing I would like the medical community and the legal community and even the college community to see if they can understand that indeed romantic love is one of the most addictive substances on earth.
You know, in the world, there's an infinite amount of women, but there's a selected few that are better than the others. You know, a selected few with whom you have like natural chemistry, you know, or maybe just one, you know, like your one soulmate roaming the earth, and it's your mission to, you know, get her, your mission to find her. And you think that no other girl, you know, stands a chance against her. Like, it's gonna be, you won't feel anything with the other women. Like, they're just practice, you know, just like sharpening the blade, like whatever. And this girl is your everything. And this is something that ultimately just crushes you. Like, it really crushes you. I see this all the time. Guys are writing like, how do I get this one girl, and they're obsessed by it. And it's just crushing them. It's like just melting their fucking soul, okay? This belief where you think that there's this one girl that's meant to be with you and you'll never find another girl like her again is just an illusion. Okay, I'm like, this is the only one girl, this is the only one girl, and it's just pathetic, okay? It's just pathetic. And I realized, you know what? This is me ultimately just mind-fucking myself, okay? Like, I don't even know this girl. Like, really picture it. Like, you meet a girl, you get her phone number, it goes amazingly well. What does your mind do? When it's reading into it, what you're basically doing is you're projecting everything that you want onto this girl. Like, you don't really know her. You don't know anything about this girl. You know, like, guys post about this, like, there's this girl I met and she's amazing, like her values and everything. It's like, dude, like, you don't even know her. okay? You're just projecting what you want onto her. You might know a little bit, and then you just overblow it. It's like you make her into your dream girl, okay? And it's just all a fucking illusion. High school crushes are the same. Like, guys are like, there's this one girl in class, I absolutely love her. And they haven't even talked to this girl. You know, they're just looking at her in the class, like the way she subtly brushes her hair. Oh my God, you know, like she's meant to be with me. You know, she's meant to be, like, even everything she says, the way she says it, it's like we have so much in common. If you're being crushed by this girl, really ask yourself, like, how well do you know her? Okay, what is real, what is illusion? And oftentimes you're gonna be surprised by how much you're just fucking yourself into it. Don't fall into the guilty pleasure. Because what you'll realize is like, well, I know a lot of it's just illusion, but I like it, you know, I like it. And it's like this guilty pleasure, and the reason people like it is it gives you something to live for. You know, like instead of going to your job or going to, you know, university or your studies, your day-to-day life, and just like, you know, thinking about work or have nothing to think about, now there's like this girl that's on your mind. You know, you're working, and you're like, oh damn, like I got that number, like, oh, she's texting me now, or like, oh man, I can't wait till I see her again in class, you know, like, holy shit, like I can't wait, like, oh, this is so exciting, and it gives you a purpose, okay? And that's ultimately everyone's goal in life, is to have somewhat of a purpose. But what's bad about this is that you're making the woman your purpose, okay? Like, you hear that, like, be separate, like your path and purpose in life has to be separate from the girl, okay? Like, you are enough, and if you make it the girl, you're ultimately fucked, okay? Step away from that. You do not want to make her your purpose in life. You do not want to make her the reason you get up in the morning, the reason you're excited about your day because you're thinking about her. That is just mind-fucking yourself into that little fantasy, into that illusion, okay? Realize that you are enough, okay? You are enough on all levels, like in the higher consciousness type of way, you are enough. Like, you don't need this girl to complete you, okay? You're on your path and purpose in life, and she just joins the ride, okay? She isn't the ride. You are enough, you go about your fucking shit, you find something to live for, you find your fucking purpose, and she just joins onto that, and she will be much happier as well, okay? You won't fall into that little scarcity mindset, and it's gonna be win-win for the both of you, okay? So realize a lot of it's illusion.
She's a sight to see, she's a good to me, but I'm already somebody's baby. She's a pretty thing, she knows everything, but I'm already somebody's baby. You don't deserve to be lonely, but those drugs you've got won't make you feel better. Pretty soon you'll find it's the only little part of your life you're keeping together.
Secondly, realize that there are an abundance of women, okay? Like, there isn't just one girl who you can create this with. You are gonna meet an infinite amount of women in your life, and you're gonna have many crushes. Like, you can recreate whatever you're feeling right now, like that passion for this one girl where you think she's special, you can recreate that again. Even though it might seem impossible if you just even fathom right now, you will recreate this again, okay? How do I know this? Because I've done it many a times. All those little crushes in the past, I was like, in the moment, I'm like, she's the only girl, until I get the next crush. Then I'm like, she's the only girl, until I get the next crush, and she's the only girl, okay? You can do it again. Do not fall into scarcity, and don't be afraid of just going back to ground zero, because that's really what it is. It's like, if you built everything up with this girl, or say you even started dating her, and you like overblowed in your mind, and now you realize like, oh, it's like she's gone. So don't be afraid of ground zero, okay? Being afraid of ground zero is just scarcity, abundance. Everything is temporary. This too shall pass.
Because your candle burns too bright. Well, I almost forgot it was twilight. Even if I think that you are right, well, I'm tired.
It might be a little bit where you're like, oh, I'm not with the girl anymore, but you're gonna meet a new one, and you have to trust in that 100% of the time, okay? 100%. You will recreate this many times throughout your life, okay? There are an abundance of women. Now, when I say this, okay, does that mean never fall for a girl? Of course not, okay? I'm actually dating a girl right now who I really, really like, but I do make the difference of like what is real and what is just me mentally projecting what I want on the girl.
Where is my someone? I dream of her nightly. I know she's out there somewhere, and I hope she dreams of me.
I don't mental masturbate. I don't self-hypnotize myself into something that's not real. I'm just like, okay, I really like this girl. It's awesome. There's like that nice natural chemistry, which you are gonna find every once in a while. But say something doesn't go well, or say it just ends, I'm not gonna be like, oh no. It's like, no, I can recreate this, okay? I'm not attached to it. I don't become attached to the outcome, and I also realize that ultimately I am enough.
My heart, it was a singing, and my head was full of dreams for you and
Stop psyching yourself out and, you know, blowing her up into something that she is not, okay? That is not gonna help you, and it's not gonna help her, okay? Like, if you're just projecting all this shit, she's gonna feel like confined. Like, she's gonna know, like, that's not really me. Like, if you're telling the girl, you're so innocent, baby, you're so innocent, and she's actually not. She's like, well, I don't wanna just be innocent. Like, don't project that shit on her, okay? Don't just trap her into it.
Oh, something's got to change for me. I've got to find a way back to that place. Another night, time sky. My spirit was a soaring as you put your hand in mine. Another night, time sky. My heart, it was a singing, and my head was full of dreams for you and I.
You know, step out of scarcity, okay? Infinite amount of women. There's not just one little soulmate, okay? There's an infinite amount of soulmates. You can recreate it with anyone, even if it doesn't seem possible at the time. And don't be afraid of fucking ground zero, okay? That's the beauty of the journey. You know, it's like up and down, up and down, up and down.
When evening comes, I don't go home. There's something different about this night, can't put my finger on. I follow my feet, and something calls to me, and there she is before me. It's the girl of which I dreamed. Prepared for disappointment, there's only a smile. I hear myself ask her, could we walk for a while? I pinch myself, I'm not a slave. Oh, it's not exactly the same, but I know I've reached that moment from my dream. Another night, time sky. My spirit was a soaring as you put your hand in mine. Another night, time sky. My heart, it was a singing as I looked into your eyes. Under the night, time sky. My spirit was a soaring as you put your hand in mine. Under the night, time sky. My heart, it was a singing, and my head was full of dreams for you and I.
I was thinking, for me it's better I don't romanticize things as much anymore. I was suffering so much all the time. I still have lots of dreams, but they're not in regard to my love life. It doesn't make me sad, it's just the way it is. I mean, I'm really happy only when I'm on my own. Even being alone, it's better than sitting next to a lover and feeling lonely. But what does it mean, the right man, the love of your life? The concept is absurd. The idea that we can only be complete with another person is evil, right?
So the next thing is, why do you keep thinking about them? If you don't understand why you're thinking about someone, then it's very difficult to stop thinking about them. You end up just pushing the thoughts away instead of directly addressing the cause of why they're there. The reason why we think about them and continue to think about them is because we think that we would be happier if they were here. If you were happy in this moment, or in other words, when you are happy in this moment, when you're enjoying yourself, when you're doing something that you love, are you thinking about them? Are you missing them? No. When you're happy, there's no reason to think about them. But when you're just sitting there and letting your mind go, your mind keeps thinking that you would be happier if they were here.
If I ever get to sleep, I'll be deep inside my dreams where no one bothers me, where things are not what they seem, falling backwards to the forward, strange and beautifully.
So let's look at whether that's true. When we're missing someone, when we're thinking about someone, basically what we do is we remember a moment of pleasure in the past, or moments, plural, of pleasure that we had with them, and then we say, I would be so much happier if they were here. Were all of the times that you had enjoyable? When you were with them, were there some moments when you were worrying about what they think? Were there some moments when you were really annoyed with them, when you were judging them, when they judged you, when you got in arguments, where you felt uncomfortable because you were trying to please them, where you name it, right? So when we're thinking of how we would be happier if they were here, we're thinking about a specific moment about how it was pleasurable. We can't just take that specific moment or experience and bring it here. If we bring somebody back, we bring all of that stuff with it. Right? So maybe now, just taking that in, you might see, actually, I don't know that I would be happier if they were here. If that's how your relationship was. Is it possible that now that they're not here, you're unhappy, which will act as a catalyst to make you start to examine your unhappiness, to make you start to examine what thoughts create your unhappiness and how to deal with them. And so just by dealing with these thoughts that before you wouldn't have dealt with, you'll end up happier.
If I ever get to sleep, I'll be deep in my dreams, just you and me.
I guess when you're young, you just believe there'll be many people with whom you connect with. Later in life, you realize it only happens a few times.
Yeah, and you can screw it up, misconnect.